All right. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Bree. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here. It's January 20th, 2026, our buyer user group meeting. Happy New Year to everybody. I know, like Kim mentioned when she was welcoming everybody before we started recording, I hope we still have a little bit of runway to wish everyone a Happy New Year. I hope you've had a healthy start. I know there's some flu going around and some illnesses. Our family kind of dealt with that over the Christmas holiday. So hopefully that's behind us. And I hope, the snow that's potentially coming this weekend to the Commonwealth um, isn't too terrible and that you actually get to enjoy it versus it ruining any plans you might have coming up. Let's hop on over to our agenda for today. As Kim kind of mentioned, for those of you that were here live, we're really kind of table setting here in January, going to talk about, the 2025 year in review. And then we do have kind of a preliminary roadmap together and some things that are priorities for us as a program. And we'll kind of be wrapping up and talking about those things. I hope then as we march through the rest of our user group sessions this year, next time we get together in person, that there will be some demonstrations and all sorts of fun stuff as we march throughout 2026 and continue to do our continuous improvement on eVA and some new fun things coming your guys' way. So again, 2025 in review, 26 roadmap, really the focus today. Shifting to our next slide, I kind of always leave these in here. These are our release notes link and our eVA tips link. Still very active areas for us. Release notes have gone in for we call it our holiday release. That's our November, December release that has gone in there. And then, of course, our eVA tips. And there's also supplier tips. That's the link to the buyer tips with their supplier tips as well. So always a good reminder to go check out those release notes if you want all the dirty details of all the things that are going into eVA. We're going to have a release this month here in January with some items coming in. So there'll be some new things coming in from a January perspective here, kind of towards the end of the month. So we'll kick it off here and kind of start talking about a little bit of a review for some of the things we went through in calendar year, calendar year 25. And one of the big things that we did was our version 180 upgrade. For those of you that came to the forum, I did an eVA update session, kind of talked about the upgrade. Had some fits and stumbles and some not great stuff going on with that. But again, we're kind of doing a positive review here today during our user group. Some of the things that got introduced, a nice feature for our requisition, some messaging and notification updates, sourcing summary report, and really that upgrade laid the foundation for some of the things we're doing. The big one being OCR, that's short for optical character recognition. We're using that for our invoicing module, and that was launched recently and is live in production and being used by, I think, at least two agencies right now are using our OCR technology with some other of you queuing up and getting ready to go down the road with consuming invoices through our optical character recognition. So very exciting stuff. Foundation was also laid for some artificial intelligence. I'll have a couple notes about that as we talk around 2026 and some of the focuses and things that we're having. But again, moving that 180 upgrade was painful and time consuming and a big deal for us. And I've got some notes about another upgrade that's coming in 2026. We're going to be a little bit more on point with upgrades going forward, so we're not making such a big leap. Really, this next slide, the big focus throughout all of 2025 was invoicing. Um, ate up a lot of bandwidth for us, and for good reason. It was certainly a focal point of the previous administration to get that rolled out. Certainly a focal point of our agency as well. We see, I think, our initiatives lined up very well. We see a lot of benefits, a lot of positives to the invoicing module in eVA, and very excited to begin to get that rolled out, get it into production. Got a couple agencies using it. Again, got a lot of you, thank you, that are queued up to start here pretty early in 2026. And, really, even though this is a 2025 year in review, invoicing is going to continue to be a focus in 26 as we continue to push this module out, particularly with our executive branch agencies. A couple of things we did with invoicing beyond rollout and training and stuff like that. Mentioned earlier that optical character recognition, the OCR functionality was put into place. Introduced a dashboard specific to our accounts payable teams that are coming into eVA, and really an invoicing dashboard that's very specific to tracking invoices, being able to look that over. So a very specific accounts payable invoicing dashboard that we launched. And then overall kind of changes to how we're doing our workflow for invoices. There is a non-PO path um, that catches invoices that maybe are missing a PO number. So at least you can catch them, review them, deny them, get them back to your suppliers so they can put the PO on them. But then there are legitimate non-PO invoices. We had a couple of our agencies who, if they're going to do invoicing and use the eVA module for these kind of invoicing approvals and things like that, they wanted to capture all of their invoices. So that can include utilities and rents and non-procurement based invoices. So we did allow for the consumption of those invoices, and then the kind of okay to pay marking for non-PO invoices. And there's a specific workflow path for that. And then a PO based, when it is a procurement purchase order based invoice, a specific path for that. And it gives you some options where your requester on the purchase order handles a lot of the upfront work, as far as the three-way match and making sure receiving's done, and that what you've ordered, what you've received, and what in what has been invoiced all matches up before you're sending that over to AP for kind of a final look, and marking that as okay to pay and getting that up into your finance system. Or there's an option where you don't have your business folks do that, and really AP stays more involved. So it gives you some flexibility from a workflow perspective. So those are just some of the things that are happening with invoicing. And again, got a couple agencies going in production, and got a lot of you guys, a good round of agencies kind of teed up here in early 2026 to begin using invoicing. So again, kind of an exciting year, and invoicing will continue to be a focal point throughout 26. And I'll touch on that again here in a bit. We did some print transaction updates. Lots of things going on there, from changes to the rec and the PO and all sorts of various things. Actually had a recent fix to that for PO line items to make sure kind of the full PO line item description was getting captured. So lots of changes and updates around our print transaction updates to help with all of those items as well. Continuing on here, kind of looking back in 2025, Report 203, which is a receiving report, is linked directly to a purchase order, which is kind of cool. It's in your other options or other actions menu on your PO. I have a little thing there that says data warehouse note. Remember that report, that receiving report, and that report that gives you really all sorts of stuff. A copy of the PO, it shows allocations, it shows approvals, it shows the receipt. It's eventually going to show invoicing. It's a pretty nice report that's tied to an individual PO. It does take a data warehouse cycle for that data to get updated. So, if you go in and do your receiving and then immediately run out and try to run that report, the data is not going to be updated because we do have to sync that data down into the data warehouse for that report to be valuable. But again, just another convenience feature for you guys and for your end users, linked off the purchase order. And you'll see that again if you go to a PO, go to that other actions menu, you'll see that as an option, along with being able to print the PO. It's one of the options right around the print function that's there as well. For a requisition, just to make things a little bit easier so you can tell that a P card has been added to a requisition, really helps our approvers and people that are looking over requisitions. We got a P card indicator on the rec header, so you don't have to click into the P card tab to see that a P card has been added to a requisition for payment purposes. So just another little convenience feature there that came in. And staying on the requisition, we added what we've been calling cost adjustment lines. What this allows you to do, and I did a demonstration of this, it was before the forum, I'm pretty sure. And the reason I'm kind of
It was the
thinking is,
September buyer user group.
thank you, Kim. Look at that. So it's the September buyer user group. I actually did a demonstration of this. So if you missed this, as Kim mentioned before we began recording, and for those of you that are maybe watching the recording, you can go back to the September user group meeting and you can see the demonstration of this functionality. So again, kind of multiple options around doing discounts, rebates. You can actually do the discounts, rebates within a line item or as a standalone. Shipping freight, same thing. You can put those details within an individual line item or standalone, and then the ability to record other costs, kind of a catch-all there. The really cool thing about this and why it's valuable for us is your ability to receive and invoice those particular items. So the big deal, I think, for us is for a discount rebate. If it is a standalone line item, you can confirm that through a receipt, even though, rebate's going to be a negative number. So you can confirm, yes, we paid $1,000 for our widget, but I can confirm that we got $100 discount and our total PO cost is $900. And you can receive both the line item and the rebate that can be received. Then your supplier can have that kind of detail on their invoice as well. And it's you're not burying it in a line or doing the math, in the item description. You actually can physically do that math as part of an individual line item. And again, the receiving and invoicing, that's kind of the big deal with that. But again, September user group meeting. Thanks to Kim for the reminder on that. If you want to go see that particular demonstration of that functionality. Staying in 2025 here, just a couple last things before we shift gears and start kind of looking at our roadmap for 2026 and some items that we have up as priority. Canceled orders used to be your end users could cancel an order and we couldn't tell who actually processed the cancellation. Now those details are provided on the header. I'm pretty sure in that September user group meeting, I demonstrated this briefly as well. You guys can see this if you go into eVA and search for a canceled order and pull up that order. You'll see the user and a date timestamp on the header of the purchase order for who initiated and performed that cancellation. So that's some information that was missing. We did do some updates to the external contract number. A lot of that around allowing the external contract number to be copied from PO to PO, from line to line, and some things like that. We've got a couple other items we're looking at for 26 to kind of help with that. The big one being mass edit. And that's something that's being kicked around. But again, a couple updates for the external contract number specifically to make that a little easier to use, particularly the copy function. Um, you can copy it line to line, and if you're doing you're using the external contract number and you're doing multiple line items, you can do one line item and then copy it, where you're not having to, cut and paste or repeat that number multiple times if you're doing a multi-line requisition and subsequent PO. And then a couple things here for our catalogs, market price on catalog items, and that is really asking our suppliers, particularly with contracts, to return a market price on their catalog line items, and that includes punch out. It does require supplier engagement. That's something that as we do new contracts and as we renew existing contracts, that's certainly something that we'll be asking our suppliers to provide for us. The big thing with this, again, it does require supplier engagement, but what it allows us to do is really be able to do a lot of price comparisons to say, well, for this particular item, the Commonwealth of Virginia or my agency or a group of, whoever's purchasing off that contract paid X and the market price was this value. And you can really do those comparisons. And it helps you, very literally show, well, this is the savings we get through using tools like eVA, using agency contracts, statewide contracts, whatever it may be. So, allows for some of that analysis to happen. Again, a lot of work to be done to get suppliers to return market prices on their catalog items, but it's certainly an option that is out there and in production now. And then you might be starting to see this, particularly around services, your ability to put in a not to exceed price on catalog items. And a lot of times that's going to be your service-based contracts and catalog items where maybe you have an hourly rate and we don't want you to exceed $50 an hour or $75 an hour or whatever it is. So there's just a light edit in place, that during these variable price where you're negotiating, maybe for a particular service and you're negotiating that hourly rate, based on what the contract ceiling is, the price ceiling is, not allowing you to key in a price that exceeds the top rate there on catalog line items. So a lot of nice features there. So that's really a quick look at 2025. Kind of talked about some of this if you happen to come to the forum and hit the eVA update. But when Kim and I were discussing today's user group meeting, we thought it would be good to kind of do a little year review. Now, I want to shift gears. And we're going to start talking some 2026 program roadmap items. Now, not all of these are some ideas we have, some priorities that we have from a program perspective. These are absolutely subject to change. I hope you are aware, but a new administration, a new governor was sworn in on Saturday. I don't know that we have a 100% feel yet for any sort of administrative priorities that are going to filter down to the eVA program, to the agency. Certainly that would change our approach to the roadmap if we need to address anything from the administration or a goal that they might have. Also, the General Assembly's in session, and sometimes we have some changes and we need to conform to a particular new law or that is passed. So we'll certainly over the next couple of weeks and months be looking at that. But from a 2026 perspective, just a couple things that at least here initially in 26, we've got prioritized. Now you'll find I don't have a lot of dates on anything yet because again, we're kind of laying these things out and figuring out where they're going to fall in the calendar. And then some of them, like the first item I have up there, really don't have a set date. We're just kind of, chatting about, and I think I touched on this a lot when we reviewed 2025, but certainly 2026 invoicing is going to continue to be a focus for us. Absolutely a focus from an implementation perspective. We're not anticipating at this point in time a lot of additional functional changes. This is more around staffing and resources, support, training, outreach, things like that, as we work hand in hand with you guys out there in the field to get invoicing configured for your particular agency, get your end users trained, get you set up for OCR if you choose to go that way, and get you rolling with invoicing. So that'll certainly be a focus. And as it tends to do, that'll suck up some resources for us, and suck up some staff time as we help you guys out with implementation and training and rollout and all that fun stuff. So certainly a focus at this point in time in 2026. A 2025 item that kind of rolled over into 26 and really our efforts and focus on invoicing, particularly late in 2025, had a lot to do with this, but some supplier cleansing and supplier cleanup. To be clear about what we're doing with that, at least our initial path, there are potentially tens of thousands of suppliers that are registered and active in eVA, but they're really not. They're no longer interacting with eVA. They've gone out of business. They haven't logged in, haven't received an order, haven't bid in multiple years. And that's just some basic cleanup that we've had on our docket for quite some time. That will make things easier for you guys from an end user perspective, that you have a much smaller list of suppliers that you have to dig through. We've got some work to do there. Number one, we want to run the list, determine what those impacts are. Again, remember, we're sharing supplier data with the Cardinal financial system, so making sure we don't overwhelm them with a lot of deactivations. And we've did some initial outreach with the Cardinal team. They've been very supportive. So certainly there's still some more work to do here. We also want to share, if we're going to do a mass deactivation, we're going to share those lists with our account exec team. We're going to share those lists. We've had some agencies ask us for that, any deactivations we're going to do, to share that list directly with our agency. So a lot of work to do around that, but still something that's on the board for us. Hopefully we'll be able to dedicate some time to supplier cleansing here in 2026 and get that moving. Another focus for 26, more analytics and dashboards. We did the invoicing dashboard that's available for our accounts payable teams and folks that are doing invoicing oversight. So we're really anxious to get more dashboards and reporting features available to the field. That includes, dashboards and things specific to the condition of requisitions, purchase orders, workflow oversight, aging, cycle time, all things we're looking forward to doing. We may have kind of an EVA metrics report ready to go as early as February. So that'll be kind of cool. So hopefully throughout 2026, you'll see more of this coming out. It's really an area where we feel like we can deliver some value to you guys, particularly from a leadership and oversight perspective. So more of that to come in 2026 as we continue to roll those various things out. So, and hopefully in some user group meetings, we'll be able to, show you some of these and do some demonstrations and some fun stuff like that. You'll notice here, this kind of last bullet point on this page, the V182 upgrade. So we'd be moving from 180 to 182. We're going to do that this year. Part of our strategy moving forward is to do more frequent point release upgrades. As an example, last year when we moved to V180, we made a pretty big jump. We were on version 168 of our software, and we moved from 168 to 180. So we went through a lot of iterations. We're going to tighten that up. And so the jump is much less. That means quicker turnaround, quicker testing, not as much of an impact. Excuse me. And our changes are going to be much smaller and incremental and much more manageable. So again, that's our plan, kind of going forward. Is that we'll be doing more frequent, probably one a year, point release upgrades. And again, it minimizes the impact not only to our team but to your staff and your teams as well, where the changes won't be so dramatic. And the performance of the system and everything like that we should have, it should be a lot more transparent from a day-to-day usage and impact to your user base. And again, the right now, the 182 upgrade, we're thinking June, July timeframe. As we get closer to that date, we'll certainly share some of the functional benefits and enhancements we're seeing. I don't think it'll be, some sort of crazy list there. And again, we're thinking keeping the upgrades tight, like they are, and having the point releases so that it will be very, very, very minimal impact to you guys as a user base. So excited about that. Excited to get that one going. Again, we'll share more information on the 182 upgrade as it gets closer, and some of the new features and functions that we're seeing. There's a couple that we've got our eye on that we're pretty interested in. So moving right along, artificial intelligence in eVA. There's certainly, I mentioned with the 180 upgrade, the 182 upgrade, you're kind of setting the platform has some artificial intelligence features in it. Optical character recognition, the OCR, is kind of it's more machine learning, but it's a form of artificial intelligence that we are using on the invoicing module. Some other things we're kind of kicking around. I don't know that we've settled on anything that we're going to actually launch per se, but there are some pretty interesting tools, user support agent, training on screen help. There are some AI capabilities in sourcing and contract management. Those might be a little bit more complex because you're talking about, some documentation summary and things like that. But certainly there's some options that we're exploring. And again, lucky for us, through our platform upgrades, the tool itself is building a structure where these tools can be looked at, implemented, things like that. Again, I don't know that we've settled on anything per se, but there are some neat options, and certainly some areas we'll be looking into exploring what our options are with various forms of artificial intelligence. That bullet in the middle there, sourcing. There are some workflow options we're considering turning on around the sourcing module. If you've noticed, where we have custom workflow right now in production is obviously on requisitions. We've had that since day one. And you guys have all your rules and the various things you can configure and set up to do requisition workflow. The second area where there is some customization and configurational workflow is for invoices. And I mentioned that earlier in our 2025 review. You can also see if you go to a contract, sourcing event, there's a workflow tab there, and we're just behind the scenes that's kind of running, but we haven't really configured workflow for contracts and sourcing and things like that to have any sort of configuration or customization to it. It's kind of running in the background. You or your end users go in, you put a sourcing event together, you hit, you save it, you hit, send and publish, and out it goes. Um, we are exploring some workflow configurations around sourcing. So you can have some oversight and do some approving of those sourcing events. So that's something that we're exploring as well. Fixed asset tracking and the requirements around that. Nothing set in stone yet about what we would do in eVA to help with this process, but certainly talking out there to our, again, friends with DOA. We had some initial discussions in late 2025. And again, I don't think any of the requirements or anything are set. A lot of them are going to be financial requirements and financial reporting requirements. But if there are things we need to do in eVA to help with that process, certainly that could be something that comes up and is implemented here in 2026 as well. Continuing on, some other things that are going on. Hang on, let me grab a quick drink of water. Like I mentioned, my family, I've been dealing with some illness over the holidays and into the new year, and I'm still got a little bit going on with my voice here. I'll probably have a cough that lingers right into allergy season, the way things are going. Couple more items here for the 2026 roadmap and some things we're looking at that are exciting. Is Power BI or better data visualization tools for our data warehouse. We're using a tool right now called Logi that does our reporting for us. That's a lot of the reports when you go to the Report and Resource Center and you're running a PO report or that receiving report, which was report 203, or maybe a supplier report or, whatever you're doing, kind of those static, large data set analytics reports. We are looking into and maybe, beginning to move towards a tool like Power BI to put on top of the data warehouse, really kind of expanding our data and reporting options and data visualization options in the data warehouse. So that's kind of some exciting exploratory work that we hope to make some moves here in 2026. The second bullet point here, excuse me, ADA improvements and compliance. We had some outreach from DARS, from DBVI, very, very specific to the JAWS and some screen reading tools. So we have some end user improvements that we need to tackle, some very specific labeling, and some things that we discovered with the screen reader. So really improving the end user experience for our users that are visually impaired. So forget what the federal government says. You got to be compliant and quite honestly red tape. We're really looking to try to make an impact directly to our end users who are visually impaired and using screen readers. And we've had a great meeting towards the end of 2025 and got some very specific notes and looking to get those things tackled. The second part of that is there is a new federal law going in place around ADA compliance that really takes effect, I believe, in April is the time frame for that. And certainly we'll be looking to make sure, and Ivalua, the tool we use, is very aware of this, that there are compliance components in place to meet those federal requirements. And certainly we'll do that as well. But as I told our teams from DARS and DBVI, when we met with them, my job, our team's job, is truly to address some of the screen reader problems we show. We want to make the end user experience good as well. So certainly we're going to have a team working on the legal side of that. Excuse me, making sure we hit those compliance goals. But really, we got an end user focus as well, and we've got some very specific things we're hoping to knock out here in early 2026 as well. A couple other items here as we're beginning to get into wrap up mode. Um, Evalua add-on functionality. Evalua has a really neat library of things that on the versions we're on, we can add this functionality um, into our tool. One of them that we thought was cool was a my sourcing page. It's a little bit smarter, very similar to my contracts. Um, it looked to us to be a little bit smarter summarization of sourcing events. Right now, sourcing events are kind of tracked at the project level. The my sourcing page looks like it brings it down and makes it a little easier to track sourcing events truly at the solicitation level. And I think as end users and even me personally, I don't think project based as much as the individual sourcing events. So it looked like kind of a neat page that could bring a little bit more usability, and easier usability for our users. There's also some things around contract summarization that seemed interesting. And bear with me, I don't know that I've talked this much. Sorry, I'm having to sip so much water and I'm clearing my throat and everything like that. I think, I still got these lingering effects from all the fun stuff we dealt with over the holidays. But contract summarization, which again has some interesting, um, summaries of contracts from terms and conditions to spend and some things like that. So again, that's a couple of examples. The add-on functionality, there's some really neat things in there. We'll be exploring some of those options and hopefully launching some of those in 2026 as well. And our final kind of roadmap item, and again, these are just some ideas, some priorities for our team. Certainly, I think these are going to change. We're going to have additions to some of these items as we go through 2026, or a new feature or function we're going to discover that we're going to want to launch. So, bear with us on that. But one of the last things here before I drop into some other notes to kind of wrap up our bug meeting today, fiscal year under control of agencies. So, right now, from an allocation perspective, the fiscal year is an enterprise entry. So if we put in fiscal year 26, 27, 28, it's really at the enterprise level. Everybody gets it. We'd like to bring that control of the fiscal years down, excuse me, to the agency level. So that really at an agency level, you're controlling fiscal year. Because some of you with longer term construction projects and things like that need several fiscal years in the future. Some of you at the agency level don't like to have your fiscal year spread out too far, and you want a lot more control of that. So again, taking that out from an enterprise perspective and allowing on an agency by agency basis you guys to control that fiscal year allocation. So that's kind of an exciting one for us as well from kind of a managerial oversight perspective. And finally, here and wrap up, just a couple other items of note. Receiving training, it's still available for those of you that have staff that need to be trained on receiving, but we've kind of switched up the prerequisites for that. There is definitely some pre-work that before your staff takes receiving training, We really want them to go through some of the basic eVA concepts and some pre-work that your staff has to do before getting that receiving training, which we think is very valuable. We were finding folks were coming in to the receiving training, and really their knowledge of eVA was, and just basic general idea of navigation in eVA wasn't as strong as it needed to be. So a little bit of pre-work that those folks have to go through to kind of build their basis in eVA, and then they can still get signed up for that receiving training. So we're excited about that. And then invoicing training right now, and for probably a good part of 2026, that invoicing training is being handled on an agency by agency basis. As you reach out to DPS, as you reach out to your account executive would be handling that training. Occasionally, you'll see me, Tony, Miranda Bowling, some folks off of our team helping you with that, helping the account execs. Certainly, my team in particular, and maybe even sometimes me personally, we're certainly going to be supporting that invoicing training. But longer term, we're looking at getting invoicing training built into its own module as well, so that it becomes part of our regular training program. So just a couple other items of note as we head into 2026. So that is the kind of wrap up here for the presentation part of our training. So I will stop sharing and get us back into the larger picture there. So I hope you found something, that you're not completely asleep, and you found something exciting for
No,
2026.
there was a lot of Q&A, not a lot, not a ton, but a little bit of Q&A going on behind the scenes. So thank you for entering those questions into that Q&A. And then we did have a question that was in the chat, and they just wanted to know what was the name of the other software that you use besides Power BI.
Oh, that was just an example of data visualization tools. Power BI was the one I had on my mind. I don't know that we've explored any specific tool yet. Power BI, particularly for branch agencies on the COV network, tends to be the license that's more readily available. There's also a lot of knowledge in the marketplace around Power BI. So that's the tool that just came to mind when we start talking data visualization. So I don't know that we've looked at any other tools specifically at this point. So good question.
Perfect. And then I just wanted to remind everyone, if you have any suppliers, since we are at the beginning of the new year, that need to get familiar with how to sell to the Commonwealth, get registered in eVA, that type of thing. I am plugging my workshops. So I'm just going to share my screen real quickly so I can show you on the eVA website. We do have dates up that are all the way through June. So you'll come on the eVA website, 3/4 of the way down, this intro to selling to Virginia and generating leads using eVA. It's a weekly virtual free workshop. So anyone who's interested in just getting started and understanding the basics, they can sign up. They happen on Wednesdays most weeks, but I do have a few Tuesdays that are peppered in because there's other work conflicts, obviously. So definitely check that out. And make sure that if you have a supplier that needs assistance, do not hesitate to send them over to eVA Customer Care. They can fill out that assistance request form. We do encourage people to kind of start with that form first. And that's something that they can fill out. And it allows our specialists to kind of look over the situation and then respond back, by either email or give them a call. But if it's more urgent, our phone lines are open, right? So we're there to take that call and provide that assistance during our normal business hours. And we do have, I think, a question that came over. So I'll let Tony, I'll give you and Jane and Bree a moment to take a look. Yes, and yes, thank you. Jennifer Boyles did put in the chat, and I'll just verbally share this out that the new VILT dates begin in February. So that's something that you can find from the eVA website. You can come over and find under the buyer training. You'll have that page on that section on this page that says 2026 built calendar. It'll take you over. And then that's all hosted again through VIP and their LMS system. All right. And I don't know if anybody saw that question that got entered into the Q&A. And it might just be a side like an offline response that
Yeah,
you
and so the one I see is it's about the contract line item
yes.
edit.
Yes.
Um, if and that might be a good question to get to Tracy Robinson directly or Sandy Stanley. My understanding is if you make the edits at the header level, particularly with your effective dates, they should be picked up by the line items as long you don't necessarily need to individually touch each line, but I also know there's a nuance to that, that if the line items are edited individually, or if the line items are loaded with their own dates, you do have to touch them. If the line items are loaded and the dates are left blank, they get picked up from the header. I know there's a nuance to that. And Sandy and Tracy can help answer that question,
Perfect. So Lisa, I'll
if I'm
get
not
that question. I
mistaken.
copied it out of the Q&A and I will get it over to
And I,
Tracy and
and I,
copy Sandy and
the
then
more
let
I
them go
think
from there.
about it, they can confirm, but I think when you load the line items, you leave the dates blank. And then if you leave the dates blank, they're picked up from the header. Now, she I see in the chat she just asked about pricing. I don't know that there's a bulk pricing update, but maybe there's something with like ETLs that could be done for the bulk pricing update as well. So definitely a good Tracy Sandy question for sure.
All right. And I'm sending them that question now. All right. With that, I think that we have everything wrapped up. Oh, and Tracy did confirm, yes, that what Shane provided as an answer, that is correct.
Yeah. And and I think from a pricing perspective, and this is where Sandy could potentially help. Contract line items are the other term for that would be they really turn into catalog line items. And I know there's some ETLing and bulk loading, ETL being the new term for bulk load. I know there's some things you can do with that too if you have to make bulk changes. So definitely a good thing to get over to Tracy and Sandy from a I need to update a bunch of catalog line items perspective or contract line items perspective. So good stuff.
All right. And thank you all for taking time out to join us for today's buyer user group, the first for our 2026 calendar year. I got ready to say fiscal year. That is, we're
No,
winding down
calendar
the
year.
fiscal year. Yeah,
Yeah, we
calendar
deal with
year.
fiscal years and then we talk all the EVA stuff's calendar year at this point. So
And the plan is definitely to have these every other month. And on those off months, we will be providing out that EVA extra. So, and you're getting all the applause. I love those reaction claps that can come floating by the screen. All right, with that, we're going to wrap up today's buyer user group for January 2026. Thanks so much. And we will see you again in March. Bye.
thanks, guys. Happy New Year, everybody.